Hey guys, Tarke here. I want to talk about the curse of movement speed and why I found it difficult to pick a new build. So my Caustic Arrow Trickster, which we did all the new endgame with, floats between 100 and 200% movement speed, based on Withering Step and Flask and everything, which feels absolutely excellent. But I've kind of done what I want to do with this character, so I started leveling a bunch of new builds. I leveled a Winter Orb character, I leveled a Fire Trap character, and everything I level doesn't feel as good as running on 200% movement speed. Now, granted, those previous characters we ditched in like Act 5 and Act 6, but leveling other characters, jumping back, running a couple of maps on this, has really helped me like nail in what I think I want from my next build, because I do want to play something different. So I'm going to give you guys some suggestions. You guys will talk amongst yourselves, hit me with some suggestions, and then hopefully at the end of this, I'll start leveling a character and be like, yeah, this is what I'm going to spend the next week on. Because, you know, it's quite fun to just spend like a week on a character and on something else, and, you know, so on and so forth. So the original appeal of playing this character was I had an Gluttonous Chant drop. And I messed around with the Gluttonous Chant, and it felt cool, but I felt like I wasn't really using it enough. So I ended up dropping it just for a Hubris Circlet with a bunch of life and stats on it. So I've gone back to thinking about, okay, well, what are fun builds I could do using my Gluttonous Chant? Well, we're back to bow builds. So there are two main ideas that I want to mess around with. One of which is a build that definitely works, and there's no question about it. But it gets less value out of the Gluttonous Chant. And then the other build maybe is a good idea. I'm not entirely sure. And I've got two different bows that I could use with it, which would make very good use of the Gluttonous Chant. So the safe build, the build that would definitely work, would just be a good old Poison Scourge Arrow character. Poison Scourge Arrow is a build I really enjoy playing. Haven't played it in several leagues now. Would just be a fun time. Can level it as Poisonous Concoction if I feel like the Poison Scourge Arrow, because I haven't got good enough gear for it or whatever, feels a bit underwhelming. Yeah, very safe, definitely works. Should fix up some of the playstyle issues that I like and dislike about my current Caustic Arrow character. Yeah, safe. Very safe pick. The other option, which is probably a little bit more exciting, probably the one that you're going to be more interested in, is either using a Gluttonous Tide, of which I have two, or using a Quill Rain, and it is a Slayer. And you're like, wait, what? So Quill Rain, I'll talk about the Quill Rain version first, then I'll talk about the Gluttonous Tide version. So Quill Rain is the fastest attack speed bow in the game. Very high attack speed, very low crit chance, 30% less damage taken, but it gives up to 100% increased projectile speed. And I've got several. I think I have one which is actually a higher roll. There's a new bow mastery, which is increased reduction to projectile speed, also applied to damage with bows. This is specifically hit damage with bows. So suddenly Quill Rain doesn't look as bad. So it's a very fast attack speed bow, 30% less damage, yes, but then it has 100% increased damage if you get a max roll one. Okay, sort of playing with fire. This is pretty good synergy with Slayer, because of the Slayer Ascendancy, which can you see? Yes, you can. Overwhelm. Base critical strike chance for attacks with weapons is 8%. And you're like, okay, so I can kind of see what the idea is. You maybe use like the new 5 to 6 stat Abyssal Jewels, get a bunch of flat elemental damage, maybe do Trinity stuff, use a Quill Rain, scale a bunch of projectile speed, give it a whole bunch of crit chance, use the Gluttonous Chant, put in stuff like Flame Wall, giving flat damage, stuff like Tornado. You can kind of see the idea. That's idea one. So the other idea I could go for is, instead of going Overwhelm, going Masterful Form, your maximum endurance charges is equal to your maximum frenzy charges, +1 to maximum frenzy charges. And for that setup, you then use Gluttonous Tide, which gives you lose all frenzy charges on reaching maximum frenzy charges, makes the next bow attack you perform fire that many additional arrows, bunch of global multi while you have frenzy charges, chance to gain frenzy charge for each enemy you hit with a crit. So you get all the frenzy charges on the tree, which then also convert into endurance charges. So you then get a whole bunch of endurance charges from Masterful Form. So then you're suddenly running around with like 7 frenzies, 7 endurance charges. Pretty good. Nice bit of physical mitigation. Nice chunk of damage. and then you like turn all those additional frenzy charges into additional arrows when you reach max stacks. And there's a few different ways that you can generate frenzy. You could either have a self frenzy. You've got the mark, which gives frenzy on hitting an enemy. You gain frenzy charges when you hit an enemy with a crit. So, you know, between all of that, you're going to get your frenzy charges up quite quickly. So that seems kind of interesting. Maybe it's a thing where like you do some shenanigans with like ballistas or whatever. It's kind of an idea. And then, yeah, so you either go for that route with the Overwhelm, or you go the Master Form route. And then with your other points, you're getting Super Leech, which doesn't go away. Like, you always get Super Leech with 10% damage reduction. Super Leech is very nice recovery. Recovery is the main thing that I'm a little bit iffy about with my current Caustic Arrow character. That's the main thing I'd hope to patch up there. You're getting 20% more damage with hits and ailments against you enemies. 10% more damage if you're killed recently. The Fizz reflects that both these builds are probably Ellie based, but if I did a Fizz version, then that's okay. And then here you're getting 20% Cull. I wanted something which felt a little bit better for the bossing. 20% Cull feels nice on bosses. And then you get a little bit of extra attack and movement speed. Seems okay. So, yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I've messed around with some random trees. I'm just like, you know, working stuff out in my head. But I'm thinking I'm sticking with the bow theme. The other thing which is quite nice about sticking with the bow theme is it's not that I'm completely done with my Caustic Arrow character. I still want to use it for some things. But I'm kind of like, I don't want to sink all my currency into this. I kind of want to sink my currency into a new project. And one of the issues that I had with some of the other builds that I was planning is they required a much wider loot filter. So I've spoken about this in a couple of my videos now. I like to run super strict filters in SSF with very few bases on there, but then going wide on those bases. So what I mean by that is, for example, I currently only show the best evasion bases, the best armor evasion bases, the best ES evasion bases, a handful of select bows, a handful of select quivers, and I hide everything else. For the Winter Orb stuff, I would then, for that build, want to start putting armor ES on my loot filter. I'd also want to then start showing like daggers, scepters, wands. Likewise, for the Trapper, I would want to be showing scepters, just scepters, but then also a bunch of shields. And there's nothing wrong with having a wide loot filter. But just like in SSF, it's one of those things. Having more targeted filters, having less things on your filters, means that you can afford to pick up more items without blocking out your inventory full of rubbish, while still mapping very fast. Because what I was doing on this character was just like spamming tier 16s, running around super quick, and like doing all the altar stuff. And as soon as you start stopping to like pick up every single thing, you really start slowing down. And in SSF, the way you get your items is by picking stuff up off the floor. In a trade league, you run the strictest filter in the world and you just buy things. But in SSF, you need the things yourself. So that's something which has also pushed me towards staying in the bow lane. Because then if I'm staying in the bow lane, then, you know, just adding an extra quiver base onto my filter doesn't really do anything. And I can still be collecting gear for this character or any other bow characters I might want to play. The other thing which is kind of interesting about maybe doing something with the Slayer setup with either the Quill Rain or the Gluttonous Tide is Slayer bows used to be very popular back in the day. One of my favorite builds of all time, one of my most popular builds of all time, was a Immolate Tornado Shot Slayer I made way back when in like Harby or Abyss League or something. And it was a Quill Rain build, stacking a bunch of attack speed, stacking a bunch of flat Ellie damage, and just doing shenanigans. So it's kind of like reminiscent of that. Yeah, the only thing which makes me a little bit wary about the idea is I really have no idea how well it will perform. I also quite like Scourge Arrow as a skill. I could maybe try pull off Ellie Scourge Arrow. Scourge Arrow doesn't perform particularly well with additional arrows. Like suddenly getting like 8 extra proj or 7 extra proj and Scourge Arrow is kind of wasted, so Gluttonous Tide is a little bit whatever. So that then makes you want to do more like barrage stuff, or something like Lightning Arrow Barrage, or like Ice Shot, or just barrage. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure on what sort of skill setup I want to go for. On the Gluttonous Tide stuff. For the Quill Rain stuff, I'd probably go for like an Ellie hit kind of playstyle. Could even just use Ellie hit with Quill Rain. And that seems interesting. It seems interesting, but very much an unknown. And that might potentially be a case of I play it for a couple of days and be like, oh, I don't know. Whereas, you know, just doing like a Scourge, Arrow, Poison, Pathfinder is very, like, it works. It works. It's a build I've played in the past. Haven't played it very recently. I know I'll enjoy it. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, trying to pick between them. If you've got any suggestions for me in either picking between those two builds, if you've got any particularly interesting setups that you can think of using the Asness Chant, that'd be cool. But yeah, you can probably see my thought process. Like, the main thing which really pushed me towards the Winter Orb character as an idea was I got a Nebulous, which is a pretty neat item. Not something you have very often in SSF. And also, while I have the Polaric Devastation, which most people are using for Ignite builds to get the extra damage from Covered in Ash, if you play an Occultist, you every 4 seconds have a 1 in 3 chance to freeze unique bosses. So you'd still quite reliably getting the Covered in Frost damage from there. And then perma-freezing, you know, map bosses is very easy. So you could kind of see why I went in that sort of direction. But when it all didn't quite feel right, I messed around with doing Frostbolt Ice Nova stuff. Wasn't quite the place I was looking for. Even tried some Freezing Pulse, Greater Volley, which I didn't mind. I didn't actually mind that. But it does feel like PoE's missing like a couple of cool ice spells. There's Eye of Winter, but then where's the single target coming from? With the Hydrosphere changes, maybe it's still there, I'm not sure. But yeah, very much open to suggestion. Let me know what sort of stuff you'd like to see. Probably gonna mess around with the Slayer idea, but would be going into that completely blind, which is kind of exciting. I also got a perfect quant rolled Biscos, which is also kind of like leaning me into just mess around, running around quick, doing stuff with bows, maybe borrowing my 6-inch Queen of the Forest now and again. But anyway, I'm going to mess around. I'll keep you guys updated once I fall into things. Let me know if you've got any fun ideas for me. And it isn't, even if it's not a bow build, if you think of something which has, you know, good movement's the main thing I'm hooked into at the moment. A high mobility build, which is relatively straightforward to pull off in SSF, let me know. I'm Tarke. Have a good day. Hope you're all well. Bye-bye.